Ben recently got changed to make less money in the early game, but much more later on. This was to make him more of a factor in the mid and late game, while also slowing down his crazy farming snowball. But the question is, does this change cause Ben to make more or less money? Well, at level 1, Ben makes $20 less per round than in the previous patch, and from levels 2 to 7, he makes $30 less. This doesn't sound like much, but it's a 20% decrease in Ben's end of round cash, and this typically lasts from when you place him all the way until the 40s. And he doesn't start making more money than before until he hits level 11, which will be in the 60s. So you'll have less money for the first 60-ish rounds of the game. This will only be around $1,000 depending on the map and what round you place Ben down, but if there's one thing we've learned from boss events, it's that farming snowballs very quickly. One round you're only making a couple $100, and before you know it, you've reinvested into several farms and you're making tens of thousands. Now, I see two scenarios that drastically change how this affects Ben. On one hand, we have boss events, and on the other, we have basically every other game mode. In boss events, the more money you make, the easier time you'll have winning, and you'll typically end up spending a few $1,000,000 by the end of an elite fight. This really enhances the feeling of Ben's weaker early game, as everything you do revolves around making the most money possible as fast as you can, and we really need that snowball effect to help with the tier 1 boss. Additionally, a screen full of farms really hides the 5k that Ben makes in the late game. Sure, his money is nice, but it's nothing compared to tons of BRFs. It's kind of a double whammy, but there is a bright side. Ben will hit level 11 in the 60s and start making up for that lost cash. Instead of the old $300 per round, he now makes $1,000. This helps quite a bit as you can catch up on some farms, but it's not enough to make up for the lost snowball. In my boss fight against Vortex, I could feel the missing money for the tier 1 boss fight, as we could barely afford an elite defender, and that's normally not an issue. Luckily, the easy map let us pop Vortex by the end of round 42, so we could make a farming comeback. If the map or boss was harder though, we would have felt this missed money more for tiers 2 and 3 as well. Ben did hit level 11 at the end of round 66 and started making $1,200 per round since he was in range of a Monkey City, but even at this point, we already had a Banana Central, 4 BRFs, and a Monkeyopolis. So while it was nice that he started making more money, it wasn't anything crazy compared to the farms we had around him. The other scenario is a normal game that you would farm in, so either medium, hard, or impoppable. Here, I didn't notice the slower start at all. Sure, it may take an extra round or two for Ben to pay himself off, but the extra income from him is still substantial enough to beat the rounds and get farms down in the mid 40s. Normally, this route lets me win with oodles of money, but once Ben hit level 11, this got out of control. My first experience with this was on Sulphur Springs Impoppable, where Ben hit level 11 on round 65, and before I knew it, I was just spending my extra money on banana banks while also having more than enough defenses. This led to me being able to afford an Apex Plasma Master on accident. Going into the run, I just wanted to get a Bloon Salver and Preemptive Strike, and the next thing I knew, I was making a Paragon in the 90s. I would say this is an extreme example, but I ran an Impoppable game on Infernal next, and once again, I didn't really feel the early game nerfs, but once the mid game rolled around, I was drowning in money. Here, I went with a ton of snipers and a permabrew, but I could have basically gotten anything, as Ben produced $130,000 by the end of the run. And just to prove a point, I beat In the Loop Impoppable, and I went out of my way to not farm. With just Ben, I was able to place down a Grandmaster Ninja, Master Bomber, 20 Shinobis, and a Call to Arms Village, which absolutely deleted everything in the 90s. So it's clear that if you're going to round 100, you'll be happy with this change. Finally, I tried a medium run and a daily challenge where both games came to an end before Ben could hit level 11 and start making real money. And these felt just like before update 42. A small investment up front for extra money every round, and a Trojan to make these strong bloons easier. A great trade in my opinion. So what are the takeaways? Does Ben make more money now? In normal games where you don't fully invest in farms and mostly place defenses, yes, absolutely. I had absurd amounts of money in Impoppable games, even when I wasn't farming. In boss events though, where you farm as much as you possibly can, no. I felt like I was behind for the first 50 rounds, and we only made a comeback because of the easy map. Maybe this was in my head, but everything felt slightly delayed. Still though, Ben and Geraldo are the top 2 heroes for boss events, and either will work just fine.